Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a minute to talk a little bit about NFP, post NFP, that is, talking about the numbers that came out and some setups to think about after the actual release here on the NFP news that came out today on Friday. So as we had looked for, we were looking for 725,000 jobs, new jobs created here in the United States. We actually beat that figure, hitting 850,000 jobs. So that sounds really good. But the little confusing thing that happened here is that overall on unemployment, we also had a rise. So we forecasted 5.6 and we really hit 5.9, which is an increase and even more so than our previous calculation at 5.8. So a little bit of a confusing standpoint here because we did get new jobs created, but also the overall unemployment rose. And that's a little bit confusing. It's kind of one that you have to think about a little bit because it sounds weird to have new jobs created, but also a rise in unemployment. That can be due to a number of factors. But the main point here is that this is sort of, from a trading perspective, a bit of a conflicting viewpoint. You've got 850,000 new jobs, but also a little bit of a rise in unemployment. So what does this tell us about the dollar? What are some setups to look for? Let's go take a look at the DXY and see everything that happened. So here is where we got the news. You can see right here on this big red candle, the market actually sort of responded negatively to this. And this is what I was talking about in the previous video. I pointed out the fact that, one thing to think about with the dollar going into the news is that it was incredibly optimistic. You had people who were thinking that the jobs numbers was going to hit and be better than expected, and unemployment was going to drop, and everything was going to look really, really good for the dollar. Now, what came out was not super, super negative, but to my point that I made in the last video, is still, it's one of those situations where when you have so much optimism going into a news event, when you have a lot of positive expectations, anything that's not absolutely perfect is very concerning. A very similar example to this, I would say, is something like Apple stock. It's a company that everyone knows makes a ton of money. So anytime it has something that is just a slight bit scary for it or not as good as expected, it can drop dramatically. So again, that is something that we see in markets quite often. So when you have high expectations for a market like the US dollar going into this news event, again, this number coming out as, even though it was pretty good jobs created, we had a little bit of a spike of unemployment. That was enough to sell the dollar off. Now, it's not, to me, it's not like an absolutely end of the world sort of thing for the dollar. I think that a little spike in unemployment is probably not the end of the world for the dollar. And for me, I'm still maintaining my bullish thesis on the US dollar. But I will say, from a technical analysis point, I would like to see the dollar at least try and hold this previous low. We did tag this level already. We'll take a look at the 1 hour chart. You can see price made a low here. Lots of choppiness going in. You can actually see on the 5-minute chart this pretty well. You had a sharp rise on the US dollar and then a dramatic drop to the downside. In fact, dropping pretty substantially there overall. Let's go take a look at some of the individual currency pairs because the euro dollar was really interesting. You can see the euro depreciated against the dollar at the start of the news and then absolutely rocketed back the other direction. And now the question becomes with the euro dollar, what do you even do with this? I mean, this is just choppiness, and this is scary, and this is some of the volatility that comes with trading the news. And this is what I mentioned earlier on in the stream that I did today. Sometimes you get the spike, but then you get volatility for the rest of the day. I would expect for the euro dollar and for all the dollar crosses to continue to move all around for the rest of today. But let's talk about some setups. Let's talk about some actual tangible things that we could do with this. So I am still dollar positive. I'm still dollar bullish for the time being. The overall jobs increasing. I think that should straighten out, and that if that trend continues, we continue to pile on more jobs, the dollar still seems like a buy to me. So for me, what that means is maybe we look at euro dollar pulling back to 1.188, maybe could look for an opportunity to re-enter on the short side for me there. If I look on the 4-hour chart, if that doesn't work, I still do like the idea of this higher time frame setup on the pullback to this level here at 1.195, let's say. And then I also still like the idea here of 1.2. So all of these levels are levels that I could consider if I were to get short on the euro dollar. So again, overall jobs numbers looking very promising, and I would expect the US dollar to overall do okay. We are seeing, like I said, a lot of volatility. So we can take a look at the pound dollar. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of volatility. So I'm not going to rush to get into just everything dollar, because let's say that unemployment dropped along with increasing in jobs. That would be fantastic. But because it's sort of mixed, there's just sort of going to be some back and forth most likely for the rest of the day. That would be sort of my opinion on this. But with the pound dollar, sort of interested here in potentially looking at short opportunities. I do think that a reasonable target, I've mentioned this a couple times, should be a move down to 1.37. So there may be some short-term swing trades here to look for this continuation to the downside. I will be watching for that on the pound dollar. Let's talk about the big one though. Gold today. Gold doing some interesting stuff. It really tried to get back above this resistance point, but it does look like for the rest of the week, we are going to end up closing in this range that we watched. I mentioned today on my stream that maybe something like this, a breakout retest, either direction could be good. It looked like we started out pretty strong for the gold market, then gave back a little bit of that. So where we currently sit, if you are if you're bullish on gold, maybe waiting for maybe it's next week, maybe it's today. We'll see. Volatility is kind of crazy right now. If we get that break above, there could be something like this. I think that is a reasonable trade to consider. Of course, remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go take these trades. These are just my opinions and setups that I personally like. But maybe gold something like this with a stop in the middle of that range in case it comes back in there. I could see a trade setup there that makes sense and gives you some decent risk to reward on the trade there. So one more dollar pair, we'll take a look at USD JPY and try and make some sense out of this one. This is the one that I'm probably the most interested in. If price does retrace a bit further here at 111, I do like dollar yen for a potential long setup. Going with the trend here, the daily chart looks pretty clean. You got a nice little upward motion overall, and a nice pullback here could be going nicely into next week. So again, that's probably one of my more favorite setups there. Now I do also have, in terms of trades that I'm currently in, I'm long on dollar Swiss, and this one looks like it may stop me out. We'll drop down to the 1 hour chart. I pointed this out inside of our Discord. By the way, if you are not already in our Discord, there's a link down below in the description. All the trades that I take, I share, prior to NFP, post NFP, all of them, whatever trades I take, I use this as my journal. So if you're not in our Discord, click the link down below in the description and join us there. Again, whether I'm long, short, in, out, full analysis with every trade. It's not a signal service. I'm not here to have people just copy me. I'm here to share my full in-depth research with every trade I take and use it as a journal. It's just part of our community. So you get also the chat rooms, you get access to our weekly forecasts, live coaching webinars, etc. So join that if you're not already in our Discord. I think it is very worth checking out, and there's a promo code there for you down below. So with my dollar Swiss trade, I am watching this thing. If it comes down here and tags me out, I'm fine with it because I do have that trade locked in stop. So I bought back here. I'm up 950 for now. We will see if that trade ends up closing me out for, I think that'll probably be like what, $650 of profit. So either ways, I'm happy with where I'm at with the dollar Swiss trade. I would love to see this area hold. I'll take it to the 4 hour chart for just a second. I like the idea of seeing if this thing can hold. If it does, great. You can see it tried to hold here. So we'll see how it closes out for the rest of the day. It's kind of been a crazy day. Post NFP, we saw volatility all over the place, up, down, around, sideways, probably even some backwards in there. So again, I am sort of just waiting on this dollar Swiss trade to see if it can either play out and I can continue to trail stops. Would love to see if this thing can break above the highs. But if not, again, like I said, I will look for new opportunities next week because I think a lot of stuff is setting up either ways. So with that said, guys, that's all I've got on NFP, post NFP. Let me know in the comments, what are you trading? If anything worked out for you or didn't work out for you, how did NFP go for you? Thank you very much for watching my videos and watching my channel. It really does mean a lot to me. If you enjoy my stuff, make sure to subscribe down below, leave a like. It really does help just to continue the content. And with that said, we'll see you back next time.